I'm brave enough to be crazy. I'm strong enough to be weak. I see all these heroes with feet of clay whose mighty ships have sprung a leak. And I want you to tell me, darling, just what do you believe in now? Turn this thing around. I will not go quietly. I will not lie down.
Hi there. So I've been reading over the texts that supposedly occurred between Tyler Robinson and his roommate, Lance Twig, and I've seen everybody's recap of it. Candace Owens, the body language guy, all sorts of people. But I still think that there are a few things that people are missing, and I think they're kind of important. So let's get into this. Now, before we even get into the actual texts, supposedly, allegedly, Lance is texting with Tyler, and Tyler says, go look under the keyboard. And there is a handwritten note there. And we have been told, although the note was apparently destroyed, it said, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. Well, right off the bat, we have a couple problems here. Number one, who gave him that opportunity? Someone had to, for him to suddenly have that opportunity, it means someone gave him that opportunity. So who was it? Who gave him the tools, the timing, whatever it is, whatever he qualifies as the opportunity, who gave it to him? And then the second question I have is, why is he suddenly telling Lance this? I mean, the whole rest of the text thread between the two of them is kind of contingent upon whatever it was that made Tyler suddenly tell him about it. And that's never explained in the text. It's actually, even worse, it's actually already presumed in the texts that Lance will know why he has to already tell him. But why? What is it that made him suddenly, quote unquote, need to tell? So then we get, we're starting the text thread that we will see the different bits and pieces of it. And right off the bat, Twigs texts back, what? You're joking, right? Now, tell me something. If your partner had just texted to you that they had the opportunity to, quote, take someone out and they took it, wouldn't you call? I mean, who would text at that point? I would start dialing the phone, and there wouldn't be any further texts because I would be talking to them on the phone. But instead, this is going to continue as texts to leave a wonderful little trail. I mean, it's so obviously planted. It's sad. I mean, who would then start texting this? I mean, he was smart enough to write it as a note that he put under the keyboard instead of actually texting that. But then he goes ahead and admits it anyway in text. So why do that? Why bother with the note under the keyboard in the first place? And why didn't he call his roommate? But anyway, so he says, what? You're joking, right? I am still okay, my love. Well, who said, actually, your partner never even asked if you were okay, which is kind of sad. But you respond, I'm still okay, but am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet, which is interesting because he doesn't say, but I am stuck. So this kid can't decide whether or not he's writing incomplete sentences. But we're going to let that slide for now because obviously it is possible that he just, typo, that he meant to say, I am stuck. But either way, he's stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Well, again, he's talking as though this is in the middle of a conversation where he said, I'm in Orem. And Lance may have responded, well, what are you doing in Orem? But that we don't see that part of it. So it's meant to kind of give the impression that this is just a a clip of a longer text thread, but it's incongruous enough that the things, they wouldn't make sense even if they were a part of a text thread. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. Again, talking as though Lance is going to understand what he's talking about. Lance has no idea that he has a rifle with him, right? Because he said, "What? You're joking, right?" Then, to be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. Well, nobody has explained yet why it is that he didn't keep it a secret. Why did he suddenly tell Lance? Was Lance texting him saying, "Hey, where are you? Why aren't you home yet?" I mean, we don't see any reason why he suddenly had to tell him. In fact, throughout the rest of the text thread, there is literally no reason why he would have involved. He says, "I am sorry to involve you." Well, then why did you? Because so far you're not giving us any reason that you needed to involve him. And as we go through the entire thread, we're never going to see a reason why he involved him. Then Twig says, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" "I am. I'm sorry." Now just think that through. Your partner says to you, "You weren't the one who just killed someone, right?" And your response is, "I am. I'm sorry." Well, why are you apologizing? If you're sorry, why the hell did you do it in the first place? And that's why people are so suspicious of these text messages, because it is far too clearly laying out exactly what needs to be laid out in order to prosecute this. And nobody writes like that. Nobody types like that. Nobody texts like that. And especially not a 21-year-old. They aren't texting this way. This is ludicrous. Then says, "I thought they caught the person." Now, this next text, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude that interrogated someone in similar clothing. Now, that right there timestamps this, because it wasn't until something like 6 p.m., I want to say Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, that they had identified one suspect that they had tried to arrest, the old man, and then questioned a second one, and this information was released to the public. So in order for Robinson to know that information, it had to have already been broadcast. And once it was, that's when this text thread has to have occurred. It has to occur after that, after they announced it publicly. "I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after." Well, why'd you drop the rifle in the first place? I mean, I am not seeing any reason why he dropped the rifle somewhere, to go back for it? Why would you do that? Did he need to accomplish something without the rifle in order to then go back and get the rifle? Did he have to go get his car? I mean, none of this makes sense in any sort of logical order. Most of that side of the town got locked down. When did that happen? I mean, I don't remember hearing about it. I would have thought that it would have been the campus that got locked down. I know that they were talking about canvassing the surrounding neighborhoods to get ring cam footage and stuff like that. But I don't remember seeing or hearing anything about a lockdown. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Well, why is one vehicle lingering? Lingering to do what? What is it, sitting right outside, parked right where you've left the rifle? Like, unless you leave it sitting in the street, which presumably you wouldn't, how is the cop car preventing him from retrieving the rifle? Doesn't make any sense. Then Twig says, "Why?" And immediately Robinson knows, why did I do it? And not, why did you leave the gun? Not, why can't you get out? Not, like, there's so many things that why could have been. How did Robinson know exactly what it was he was referring to? And again, it's almost as though it's being laid out exactly as it needs to in order to be prosecuted. to give all the key bits of information that you need in order to find someone guilty in the end. And none of that makes sense. You're going to write a note and put it under the keyboard so that you don't have to actually put it in text that what you just did, but then you're going to go ahead and put in text everything that you did. Who does that? Unless this kid is the stupidest criminal ever, nobody does this. And yeah, it could be he's the stupidest criminal ever, but even then, it's still too simple. The things that he's putting into this text thread are too clearly like a spotlight saying, prosecute him successfully. Robinson makes it quite clear why it is that he did it. He's got to, lay his motive out completely for his roommate rather than waiting until we got home. That's another thing. What wouldn't you at that point say, we'll talk when you get home? Why is he putting this all in text message? I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence, except for all of the evidence you are currently putting in a text. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Well, hopefully they have moved on. But didn't you just say you are sitting there waiting for them to move on? So how do you not know? How do you know that car is still lingering? I mean, these are supposedly taking place one right after the other. Unless Lance is, too busy to respond to your roommate that is currently texting you about a murder he committed. How on earth is it that, 2 seconds ago, he sees them lingering and now he's saying maybe they've left? Doesn't make any sense. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. So it only took him a week to realize, and remember, he lives like 3 or 4 hours from this campus, right? So it only took him a week to figure out how to do this? I mean, no one's explaining to me how this 22-year-old kid figured out that he was going to get on the roof of a building and it was going to still be possible for him to go ahead and accomplish this. Most 22-year-olds I know wouldn't have had a clue how to do it, even if they decided that they wanted to do it. Which, of course, is ridiculous in the first place. We have no real reason being given for why he decided to do this. But just the logistics of it, how did this 22-year-old kid come up with it? I mean, maybe I just don't have the devious mind, but I wouldn't have even known the first step on how to accomplish this. And a little over a week, I believe. So you're telling me this 22-year-old has had such a wealth of life experiences that he can't remember when it was that he decided to assassinate someone? Like, there's any doubt over how long he's been thinking about this? The I believe part. First of all, a 22-year-old doesn't talk that way. And second of all, how does he not know? I would think that would be a rather monumental decision in his life at 22 years old. And so there shouldn't be any ambiguity about it. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. Okay? I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. So what is it that you don't want to chance? If they've already swept that spot, then someone lurking up to a bush or whatever it is, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure that would alert the cop car. But didn't they say that the gun was found in a backyard by a chicken coop? So how would the squad car be able to see into the backyard and see what someone's doing around the chicken coop? That makes no sense whatsoever. Where is he positioned that he can see that this is going on but can't access the rifle? What, does he have to run across the street? Well, walk down a block and then cross the street and then we'll go through the backyards. We already know that these backyards are somewhat connected since we've seen the TMZ footage where you can see the kid running through a backyard. It doesn't make any sense. A cop car on the street wouldn't have been able to show the point where the rifle ends up being found. Like I said, I've heard people question bits and pieces of this, but not just the basic information. If the cop car is in the street, it can't see in the backyard, so why can't he retrieve it? Then he says, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. Well, why didn't you? What else were you doing? Like, what did you have something else on your calendar that you had to attend to before you went back and got the murder weapon? What else was he doing? I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. Well, bring back Grandpa's rifle? Does your old man know you have it? Or what? It's just going to disappear one day? And you're never going to tell your dad what happened to the rifle? None of it makes any sense. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. So then what's the problem? Presumably it would trace to your grandfather. So at some point in time, it's going to trickle down to you. When your grandfather says he didn't do it, when your father says he didn't do it, then clearly it's going to trace back to you. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. Well, earlier in the text thread, you didn't say that it wasn't you didn't have the ability or the time. You said that it was an intentional decision to leave the rifle. So which is it? I mean, in this very, very brief text exchange, he's already contradicted himself multiple times. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the fuck will I explain losing it to my old man? Apparently that's your biggest concern at this point, not how you're going to explain the assassination. Because if you have to explain the loss of the rifle, you're going to have to explain what you did with the rifle. And one would think that that would be a harder conversation than the missing rifle in and of itself. Only thing I left with the rifle was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Now, again, what is the purpose of the towel? I would assume the purpose of the towel was to wipe the weapon down of prints. But he didn't do it. He just wrapped it in it and left it? Why did he leave the rifle in the first place? There's no explanation of that. Now, granted, some of it could be that they're redacting bits and pieces of this text thread. We know that this is not the complete thread because, for one thing, we don't have Twig's responses. We only have Twig's responses that explain Robinson giving the motive and the purpose of what it is that he's doing. But taking that out of it, which it's kind of hard to do, but we'll take that out of it and we'll say that they're redacting bits and pieces, but there's still enough of the continuity of the text to know that there can't be that much in between them. So one thing that we're missing is you wrapped the rifle in the towel, but didn't actually do what the purpose of the towel was, which was presumably to wipe it down of fingerprints. You just forgot that step? I mean, again, would have to be the dumbest criminal on the planet. This is the one that bothers me. Robinson says, remember how I was engraving bullets. This is the one that people aren't catching. That means Lance knew he was engraving the bullets. So when Tyler was sitting there in their living room engraving bullets, what did Lance think he was doing that for? Lance already knew about the engravings. So, what reason did Tyler give Lance when he was sitting there engraving the bullets? He had to have told him something. Or, what? Do they do it all the time? Like that's what they sit in their living room and do all day long? This conversation had to have already taken place in some sense in order for him to say, remember, I was engraving the bullets. Lance knew he was engraving the bullets. So what did he think it was for? Was there a different assassination that Tyler had planned? Or is it just, a just in case kind of thing? Just in case I have an opportunity to hit someone with a rifle? Let me engrave these bullets so that they know I'm furious about transgender equality? I mean, come on. That's a very key bit that people are missing. The fucking messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke. That's what's gonna do you in? Not if they show your picture on Fox News. And notice, you put in Fox News. Why Fox News? Well, you could just as easily see it on CNN or MSNBC. Why saying Fox News? Well, because remember, he's anti right wing. He's left wing extremist. You got to put in that Fox News dig. That's why this is so clearly laid out as how do you frame someone to be a left-wing extremist that just murdered a right-wing political activist. This is how you do it. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really fucking sucks. Well, why do you have to leave it? Why? Again, do you have something else to do other than prevent yourself from getting accused of murder? I mean, what else are you doing that you can't wait another hour? I don't understand it. Is this just, the younger generation's need for instant gratification? Well, you've sat around for 6 hours already. What's another hour to save yourself from being caught by the police? Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. Wow. Yeah, you're a piece of work, kid. Now Robinson says delete this exchange, which clearly Lance did not do. Or maybe he did and they retrieved it. Who knows? But does he not say destroy the note? I mean, he's more worried about this exchange than the note. And then he continues, even though he's already told him to delete it, he continues to add more fuel to the fire. My dad wants photos of the rifle. Now, in order for this to be, now we have to presume that this is the next day, because it wasn't until the next day that the father claims to have called Robinson and spoken to him about these things. So we now know it's definitely the next day. Where'd the kid go overnight? Where'd he sleep? Did he go back to his apartment? 4 hours away? I mean, he would have gotten there around 2, 3 in the morning. And now, why the next day? Where's Lance? Why is he still texting him? Isn't Tyler at his home with Lance? I mean, you would think Lance would take the day off work, considering the fact that your partner just assassinated someone. So what's going on here with this? Why is there still texting happening? My dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it's very unique. What was unique about it? Because I've seen photos of it. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing unique that Grandpa is going to know that's his gun. And why is Grandpa giving his grandson his gun in the first place? I mean, usually that's something you're going to pass down once you pass. So what is it? Why hasn't he passed? Why is he passing it on early if Grandpa's still alive? He's calling me right now, not answering. So again, he's ignoring his father, but at least now we know when it is that this text messages are happening. But again, who is where? Aren't they in the same house together since they live together? Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. Okay. wouldn't he have been just as diehard MAGA before he got into office? Like before the election? Or what is it about after the election that suddenly that makes him MAGA? I mean, if he was MAGA before the election, he's going to be MAGA after the election. So no more or less diehard than he was. If anything, like that's ridiculous. Most people who supported Trump, the only change that might be is that some of us are backing off of it, but not by much because it was still the better alternative. But there's no reason why his father would have become more MAGA. Candace Owens was saying, there's something for everybody in this. If you want to be anti-MAGA, you can be anti-MAGA because of the dad. If you want to be anti-left, you can be anti-left because of the kid. She's spot on there. Then it says, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. Well, okay. So Robinson is telling his roommate that he's turning himself in. And yet, when he gets to the police station, he doesn't turn himself in because he doesn't confess to anything. Turning yourself in means you are confessing to it, and we know for a fact that Tyler Robinson is not cooperating and has not confessed. Well, we know that according to Governor Cox. So unless Governor Cox is lying to us, we know he hasn't turned himself in. He merely, submitted to custody? I mean, why would you do that and then not admit it? One of the neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. And what does that have anything to do with anything? I mean, is that going to motivate you? I wouldn't think that it would. Then Twig says, I'm much more worried about you. Well, Lance, I hate to break it to you, but with all this, don't bother worrying about him anymore. You may as well just sign off on him. Wash your hands of him, because nothing good is going to come of remaining worried about him. Robinson, don't talk to the media, please. Really? Did Robinson need to tell Twigs that? Or did Twigs not catch that on his own? I mean, Twigs must be no more intelligent than Robinson if he needed Robinson to tell him that. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you any questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. And yet, the one thing that we have heard repeatedly is that Lance Twiggs has been very cooperative. So if he's been very cooperative, then he hasn't followed any of that advice, really, except not talking to the media. So those are the things that I caught. And the biggest clue to me is where it says, remember when I was engraving the bullets. And I haven't heard anybody mention that. By saying that in the text thread, Lance knew he was engraving the bullets. So if this text thread is real, which I have my doubts about, but if this text thread is true, Lance knew about it ahead of time. And the rest of it is just smoke and mirrors saying that he didn't. Now, it could well be that Lance, knew about it, but is somehow surprised that it actually happened. I could see that. But then that takes away a lot of what the rest of it is. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this text thread. Let me know what you think about the few clues that I caught on to. And are there any clues that you caught on to that you haven't heard everybody else noticing? Because there's so much in this very small little, window into their text thread. Because we know a lot of it has to be redacted because Twig isn't responding most of the time. So we know that there has to be more. But tell me what hints you caught. And, as always, I look forward to reading your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you all have a great day, filled with love, laughter, and of course, dancing.
Dancing